Hello. For week 6, you'll have your choice of either shooting for a panoramic image or an HDR image. So here I'll go over the process for the HDR choice. There are details about how to shoot and set your camera using a tripod using full stops, varying shutter speeds for your HDR image. You should shoot anywhere between 5 and 9 images to use for your HDR merge. I recommend shooting a few sets of images so that you're left with some choices. Once you've determined which images you're going to use, go ahead and import them. Be sure to add your creator metadata preset, as always. And a reminder, for this class, you should not be using any develop module presets upon import. That's especially important for this assignment. So when you have your images imported, go ahead and flag the images you're going to use, 5 to 9 of them, put them in a collection, Module 6 HDR. Go ahead and review the settings within Lightroom. If you look in metadata, you can look at the shutter speed, focal length, ISO, aperture, and so forth, exposure. So here I see that my aperture, f-stop, is 8.0, and my shutter speed is 1/4 of a second. In the next image, it's a 1/2 second at 8.0, then 1 second at 8.0, 2 seconds at 8.0, 4 seconds, and 8 seconds. So I know that because the time is doubling each time, that these are full stops. And that is assuming the aperture and ISO have remained consistent as they have here. Okay. Go ahead and keyword the images. I used the same keywords on all of the images except for, in this one it was +2, +1, 0, -1, -2, and -3. That's referring to the exposure. When you have your images in a collection and have determined that the settings are appropriate and you have indeed bracketed using full stops, go ahead and select all of the images and take a screenshot showing the keywords. Right. Next, you'll need to make a contact sheet of the images. So head over to the print module. Ensure that you're using all of the images, whether they're all the film strip photos or selected photos. Okay. Here, let's see, I'm in single image contact sheet. I think that a landscape page will work better for these particular images. So I'm just going to go over to page setup and choose landscape. Okay. I do not want to zoom to fill or rotate to fit. And I want 2 rows and 3 columns in this case. Right, I'm just adjusting the spacing a little bit. I don't necessarily need a stroke border, although I could have one. And then for my photo info, I do want exposure. Okay, that's the thing I'm most concerned with. And at this point, I will go ahead and either print file or create a PDF. In this case, since it's just one page, I can print file. If you have 9 images, You can, of course, adjust and use, for example, 3 columns by 3 rows. Determine where you want the image to go and label it accordingly. Ensure that you leave Lightroom time to export. And that is all for assignment 1. Assignment 2 will have to do with processing the HDR image. In other words, processing all of the images into one. You'll want to select all images. It can be Command A on a Mac, Control A on a Windows, or simply select all, click on the first, click on Shift, click on the last. In any case, get all of the images selected. You'll have your choice of processing the HDR image either in Lightroom or in Photoshop. I'm going to go over both here. In Lightroom, you would simply go to Photo, Photo Merge, HDR. It's going to create a preview. I'm going to pause because this will take some time. Okay, that took about 3 or 4 minutes. That will vary depending on your file size, how many files you have, etc. In some cases, Lightroom may tell you it's not able to create an HDR merge. That might happen if the images aren't aligned properly or something of that nature. I have auto align checked here. If I had not, you can see whether or not there would have been a difference or not. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it checked. Okay. You also have the option to deghost. Mine is set on high, and this has to do with any movement. For example, in this case, the water had some movement. It might take several seconds to see the difference between each one. I'm just going to put none and pause while it's deghosting. So you should be able to see a slight difference between this and the high deghost amount. Just choose whichever you prefer. Sometimes if there's something like cloud movement or water movement in this case, you might need some deghosting. Okay. You can also choose auto tone or not. In this case, I'm just going to leave it off and make any adjustments I want later in Lightroom itself. Okay. So once you're ready, go ahead and click Merge. This will actually create a very large file, so it will take quite some time. So Lightroom is telling you its progress up here at creating the HDR image.